Hey guys, here's the gear for today. Pretty much the same as yesterday, different blade. Everything else is the same because we're going to change a couple of things, and you don't want to change too many variables if you want to have good information about the results. I'm going to keep the brush and the soap kind of in one sphere of change, and then the razor and the blade in another sphere of change, kind of keep them separate, two spheres. So the first one would be the soap, Mitchell's Wool Fat. We used that last time. We used the Marco method with the goal of mixing until a kind of an opaque slurry developed. But it never did. And after a few minutes of lightly, now the brush was soaking, but it was a very light, just the tips, kind of mixing. Semogue Owners Club with the Taj handle is what we're going to be using here. I've had him soaking now for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and so he's nice and hydrated. And so this time, though, in the Mitchell's Wool Fat, we'll do the same thing along kind of the idea of the Marco method, but we'll be a little bit more true to that method with doing like 100 swirls. Maybe we'll do 120 just for grins. That's the range that Marco kind of mentioned in his post about it on Badger and Blade. Now, he also said that he doesn't really like the name Marco method, but it is a lot easier than saying the old Italian master's method. But that seems to be a bit of a misnomer, right? I bet the old Italian masters kind of differed in lathering about as much as we Americans do, right? But anyway, that's what he calls it. And he said that it worked well for hard soaps. Now, he originally wrote it for soft Italian soaps, but later on he would add a footnote that said it's good for hard soaps too, and that is certainly what Mitchell's Wool Fat is. So we're going to do a smaller amount of swirls because we discovered that, man, that slurry we developed last time, that was 3 shaves full of lather. My bowl was full, and it was still concentrated, still needed more water. So, and let's just rightly go ahead and do a face lather today, okay? Just like generally the Marco method would have you do. And then maybe next time, if we feel like taking that 100 or 120 count swirl and transferring that into the bowl to see how many passes of lather that will give us, maybe we'll do that. So we'll also be able to put another use of Mitchell's Wool Fat up on the YouTube sphere of shaving videos because it's a very good soap and I think it needs some attention. Now, that is the kind of software part of the sphere. The soap is staying the same, the brush is staying the same, but we're going to change the load time. We're also going to face lather, but that's the variation. Now, the other sphere was the hardware. I am changing the blade. I'm changing back to one I used in the very beginning with this razor because I'm going to dip down to the 2 setting. I used it on 3 first. I bumped it up to 4, and now I'm going to take it back down. I'm going to take it down to 2, and we're going to see how that experience is because 3 was really pretty nice in terms of comfort. It had just a little bit of blade feel, not really all that much. Matter of fact, it was so comfy that I felt like I could go ahead and do this stroke right here, which is an against the grain stroke in my trouble area. And so only the smoothest of razors can build that confidence up in me, like that's not going to be a rough experience, because most of the time it is. But this did handle it. Now that did end up giving me just a tiny bit of irritation, but if I hadn't have done that, total smoothness, but a close cut. That's the thing. Sometimes you get smooth and you realize that you've left kind of some stubble, but no, not in this case. So what are we going to get now if we switch down to a 2? Are we going to get even more buttery smoothness? Probably so. Now, are we going to get the same amount of efficiency? That's what I'm very curious to find out. So, just dropping the Astra Spear Platinum Blade on there, and of course you can see how it's the inked version and not the more current laser etched version. We are on the to setting there. Lock it down. And all these shaves that I've been doing with this razor, I've just put in the blade randomly, not trying to line up anything, because the 5th generation version I had before, you kind of had to be cognizant of that. But they fixed the alignment issues in the 7th generation, which is what this one is. All right. And I'm going to get some water on my face. All right, so in true Marco style, here we go. We're going to take our puck of soap, freshly used yesterday. So that means it's going to carry over a little bit of moisture, but you don't really have to think about that too much with Marco because you're going to use a ton of water in the brush anyway. Like so. We're going to lift the brush out of the water. If you keep it flat just like that, you'll keep some water in there. If you turn it sideways just a little bit, the distribution of the water will let some more of it out. You can kind of choose what you want to do. But this is still pretty heavy with water. I haven't done any shaking or anything like that. That's kind of one of the instructions about Marco. Badger and Blade has the write-up. If you look up Marco method on Badger and Blade, you can find all the details about it. I also explained a lot of the principles about it on the yesterday's video, so check that out if you want. I don't want to rehash the same Marco concepts again when you've got a couple of different sources for it. So let's do 120 swirls here and see where that puts us. And again, very light swirls. Just the tips and a very, very light pressure. Not looking to splay the brush at all, really. All right, so 120. 1, 2, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 8, 9, 100, 110. That's 120 swirls, roughly. There's still tons of water on the top of the soap there. I'm just going to kind of pour that off. So we'll just see how. Now Marco did say that there could be some variation. It doesn't look like there's a whole ton of soap in there, but you know, looks can be deceiving. So we'll just see how everything goes. It is a very wet brush. There is a lot of dripping going on. That's okay. All right, face lathering, here we come. I don't do a lot of that. I don't enjoy it as much. And so I may have to tolerate a lather that's not as wet as I might like because it's just such a pain getting that really hydrated. But you know, sometimes you learn stuff. Now, I'm gonna go ahead, oh yeah, instantly a bunch of water kind of starts to drop down my face, but I'm gonna keep kind of the pressure light so that maybe we don't just immediately squeeze like a car wash sponge all of the water out of the brush. And we'll see if the 120 turns out to be a good amount of water. Could be that, you know, this one needs 150. It's definitely kind of slow starting, but you can see the suds kind of start to build up. Just a normal day's growth today. Look at that. On that right side, it just, I guess that's my easier side of lathering, since that's kind of where my hand is anyway. It's coming up. Right now it's at a very good point. You know, of course it's well hydrated because we kind of showered it with water. We started it with a lot of water. And of course, if you have a brush that has a feel on your face that you really enjoy, then any method that gives you a lot of face exposure, a lot of time to work that brush and the lather into your skin, is kind of a plus, right? Now let's take a moment and check out our brush. Not too bad. We're not developing a lot of excess around. We've got a little bit. That's very manageable. Who knows? I mean, it did start off slow, but this may be, not an overload, because after all, the tips were just very carefully put on the soap and very lightly moved around as per the Marco recommendation. And the nice thing here is I don't think we've got this crazy concentrate going on. It might be a little concentrated, but really I don't know that it is. It's really pretty close to my standards. And so what we might have developed was we might have just kind of stumbled into a good ratio that works for me as well. Now, one of the face lathering issues that face lathers have to deal with is the third pass, or if you want to go to a fourth pass of lather. Most guys don't need to go to a fourth pass, so that's not really an issue. Now I switched the swirling, and you can see we're starting to kind of involve some of the other parts of the lather that's on the brush, and so yeah, now we're starting to see some increase in that. But one of the problems is making the lather get to that third pass, because of course this first pass when you're face lathering is going to be rich, right? The second pass, less so. And then the third pass, that concentrate's gone, you've just got kind of what's left on the brush. And so that's where face lathering can kind of take a back seat to bowl lathering. With that aspect of, if I have to go 4 passes, my fourth pass of lather is just as luxurious as my first. All right, now we've got some excess around my goatee. I think we've taken enough time to work it into my face, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do, little strategy here, I'm going to mix it up a little bit so that I get, with a swirl motion, a little cup, so I can put my lather in there to hold it until my next pass. Now I've often advocated using a lather bowl even if you're a face latherer, because then it lets you, if you do use concentrate and something kind of intense on that first pass, then that's great. The lather bowl can give you a place to put your excess lather so that you'll have it there for you on that third pass or whenever you might need it, even if your second pass gets skimpy. All right, very good. So here we go. Let's shave with a 2 setting of 2. And this blade did very well with a setting of 3. Hey, do you see the shadows back there? I wanted to brighten up the background behind me, so I put a little LED light down below, and I think it looks a lot nicer back there. It's not quite so dingy. However, you do see an occasional shadow of whatever. All right. Very comfortable, as you might imagine. Now you can feel for your hairs being cut, and it's a very comfortable sensation, but I'll bet that might become a little difficult as the shave continues, because the stubble is going to get reduced, and that sensation just might be hard to come by. Nice slick shave here. Tiny bit of blade feel. But I mean, you just don't even feel the edge. It almost feels like an index card or something like that. It doesn't feel like a blade edge. I really like the geometry where they have placed the exposure of the blade with a safety bar here on this Flexi. Great. All right, a little splash of water. Now with face lathering, I kind of feel like I need to preserve the lather so much that I almost don't want to do a nice rinse between passes. And that lather I collected there is what I used right there. That's what's on my face right now, the stuff I put in the middle of the knot. So that's going to be a good strategy if I ever want a face lather, because then I know I've got plenty left over here in my brush for the third pass. See, I've been trying to be careful when I face lathered and it didn't go well, and there have definitely been plenty of those, or at least when it had some tragic flaws. It went okay for the first couple of passes or something like that. But I was also, I tried to be very straightforward with the fact that I may just be a bad face latherer. I did do it for maybe a year or two before I learned about, back when all I knew was the Walmart brush, the Vanderhagen brush that I was using, and the Vanderhagen razor, before I knew anything about the premium soaps. Now this, of course, is just crazy comfy. Just really can't even feel the blade. So if you're into mild shaves, it looks like this guy can deliver. So let's see if he can deliver the closeness, and we'll check that out, of course, after the shave is done. Now with this, boy, is that setting of 1 going to do anything? I don't know. It's probably good, because there are razors that shave milder than I can enjoy, and that's good because there are people, there are guys and ladies out there who need something really, really mild, even more milder than my preferences go. And so I guess maybe that's where the 1 is going to be for them, perhaps. All right, a little water. I've had good performance from this lather, so I think in that sense I nailed it pretty good. It just happened to 120 seconds just kind of happened to give me a big old brush full of lather. And then I was able to kind of conservatively use it. Now, I don't think this pass would be nearly as nice if I hadn't have been very conscious about saving that big old blob of lather from earlier. I think this would be pretty skimpy. Now also, I'm going to tell you that this is less of a luxury experience than bowl lathering. I mean, this right here, in the bowl, by this point, I've got another pass or 2 of lather in the bowl, and so then this kind of feels a little skimpy, and if I want a more luxurious experience, I can just dip back into the bowl and go at it and load some more in there. Likewise for the second pass. The second pass was actually pretty good. I don't think I would have wanted any more, but definitely at this point, the bowl lather would afford me more luxury. And right now, the brush experience is kind of minimal because it has less lather to work with. If I would have had a bowl of lather, I would have enjoyed my brush even more at this stage right before the third pass. And that is a concern I've addressed recently, in saying how some people claim that a bowl latherer doesn't enjoy their brushes as much. And I think, yeah, sure, there are probably some people who mix it up, paint it on, and then go, but I'm not one of those people. I work it into my face, and then I spend extra time before each pass, before the second pass and third pass, just enjoying it. And right now, it was a very utilitarian paint-on pass, just kind of spread it around pass, and it, because of the lack of the amount of lather here, it wasn't very luxurious. And so I would have had more time with my lather and brush here before the third pass if I would have been bowl lathering. Now, I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's just different. And you know, you're like I think Bry was talking about how a recent viewer, and he was talking about how he um, has figured out that Bry or Zachary, I think it was Bry, that he's figured out um, that the time that he spends in the morning, he just can't take a lot of it to make up a lather. And so this might be a great kind of shave for him, this kind of thing. And so maybe he just can't afford to take that much time to enjoy the brush anyway. But anyway, you got to do what you can do, right? Whatever you can make happen. Especially if you're a morning shaver, you might really, man, I'm not a morning guy. If I was a morning shaver, you wouldn't be seeing me on YouTube. See, yeah, this is very faint. This is, I'm getting some skipping there because the lather is just very, very thin. And not in a good way. Not in the properly hydrated thin like you've heard me talk about so many times. Yeah, this is, let me try to just extract as much of it as I can here from the brush. Now if I dip in the water a little bit, sometimes can I wake up some concentrate that's in the brush? Maybe, let's see. Not really. But maybe we've added some moisture. See, I don't really think that overloading the brush, because I think this was an adequate load. You know, just so much of that concentrate, so much of that good stuff goes down the drain after the first one, and you're just kind of left with the remnants. The second shave was pretty good, but on the third pass, you've just kind of got the remnants to deal with. If you're face lathering. Now maybe if you're face lathering, you might be, what if you liked your razors more aggressive and you could get everything done in 2 passes? Oh, that would be nice, right? You didn't have to worry about this skimpy third pass. And I guess what I was saying was, even if you went to overloading, I don't know that this third pass would end up to be any different, because you'd have 2 chances of lathering up, unless you made a concerted effort to have a bowl nearby and save the excess lather that was being generated by your face. But so many of my face lathering friends, one of their big deals is they don't want a bowl to clean up. They don't want an extra piece of stuff to clean up. They want to keep things simple and fast. And so I think having an extra bowl to catch and keep that extra lather for the third pass to save it, you know, I don't think that's kind of what they'd be interested in anyway. I'm liking the lighting today. Yeah, I like the lighting in that back. I don't like that occasionally there's a shadow. I wonder if that's distracting. But I do like the more lit stuff back there. I think I'm gonna get a pad or something to write on so I can illustrate things for you guys when I have concepts and things to talk about. All right, my face feels just a tiny bit itchy, and that has not happened with a bowl lather with Mitchell's wool fat. Could it be that it was protecting less on this third pass because the razor, the lather was just skimpier? That could be it. Just a tiny hint of razor burn. I don't know that it's any irritation or itchiness due to the concentrate being on my face, since we did have so much water in the brush when I first started with the small circles and very faint, very light pressure. There wasn't concentrate right then. So don't think that intensity of product would have caused this. So I can only assume that it must be either the blade in the razor, or just like being a little bit too irritating, or the lack of protection. I think it's the lack of protection, because I got a smooth experience, really very happy with the blade in the razor here, and the setting of 2, man, I'm looking forward to trying that again. Highly comfy. let's check out the results. Let's see how close I got in my, this is kind of my litmus test down here. It's not as nice. It's not as closely cut as it is when I was using the 3. And so yeah, I guess if I want comfort as a high priority, then go with the 2. But 3 was still really pretty comfy. But if I want almost no blade feel, go with the 2. If I don't mind having just a little bit of blade feel, but still quite comfortable, and then a really close shave, that's where the 3 comes in. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if I picked a 3 every day, but I'm interested in trying the 2 again, just with a better lather, not with the face lathering. I want to make sure I have plenty of lather to do the job. Yeah, I'm starting to actually feel that in some various places. Let me go ahead and do a rinse. Yeah, there was really barely anything to rinse off. The lather didn't wake up or anything. I put the water on my face, and it just was barely slick. And so I got a feeling that's what it is. There just wasn't any protection on that third pass. It was just kind of wet. That's all. Now again, maybe face lathers find a way to navigate this third pass. I think sometimes they might tend to go back to the soap tub and mix up some more lather. But that'd be a huge pain in the butt. That's like starting your shave all over again. I would not be interested in that. Okay. But I'm very happy to report about the Marco method with the 120 swirls. It did give me the first and second passes of lather were very nice. They were nicely hydrated. Just the right amount of water for me. I enjoyed that part. It wasn't too much water. So that was really nice. And so if you're a beginner, yeah, I could definitely see how that could put you in a really good place with if you're having trouble generating your lather. Now, you still have to figure out what to do in the third pass, but at least you kind of get to a decent place with the first and second. And sometimes that's fun. It's good to have a win when you're struggling in the beginning, if you are. Some people don't, but some people do. So really neat how the lather, the water amount seemed to be pretty much just right. As you see, I didn't have to add any more water to the brush. And now that, of course, is going to differ. This particular brush, it equaled out just right. There are other brushes where I may have had to add more water to the lather. It just all depends on the brush and how quickly it can pick up the soap. The razor, I was very happy with that as well, other than the caveat I mentioned about it not having the slickness that it needed on the third pass. So there we go, very good. Now, because of that little bit of irritation, let's whip out a balm and let's kind of pick something nourishing today. This is a cheap one. It's really high quality. It's very nourishing. If you have dry skin, definitely one to check out. I mean, there are other options too, but this is inexpensive. You can often find it at Walmart or drugstores, that kind of thing. Has a decent generic kind of manly cologne smell. So I didn't quite get the closeness I wanted. And I think part of that is probably I could have gone back and worked some more if I would have had a better lather for that third pass. I could have done maybe some touch-ups to get everything taken care of. Wouldn't it be funny if, see, I never put in any kind of moisturizer until I started this hobby on my face, right? So wouldn't it be funny after, if I get to the kind of the end of my life and I've had this hobby for a while and my beard area here looks young because of all the balms that I've used consistently over the years, but then my like cheeks and forehead and maybe my neck look horrible because of it hasn't been exposed to those kind of skin food type ingredients. So there we go. That was an all right shave. It had some bad parts, but it did have some cool parts too. And here's what it looks like after a good rinse out, a good towel stropping. nice, easy splay this brush gives you. And this one's still young, and I did not remember correctly the usage numbers on this brush. It was more like 58. I thought it was 68. I thought it was high 60s, and it was actually high 50s. And this may be the 60th use, but at least last time I did tell you, if you were really curious, you could look down in the description, and that would have told you the correct number. And so again, same thing. I think it's around the 60 use mark, and we still have tons of tips that need to split, and so it's still enjoyable at this point, and that's a nice redeeming quality about this brush, and how it does get usable fairly quick, and then you have a good while you do, at least it's good and comfy while you wait for those tips to split, unlike some other types of brushes. So I did point out some of the potential weaknesses of the face lathering method, and I know that some of you guys who watch me are face latherers for whatever reason you've chosen, and because maybe the weaknesses that I see in face lathering, they matter enough to me to make me a bowl latherer. But in all likelihood, if you're a face latherer, they don't matter as much to you, or you're just forced into a quick time turnaround like the morning where you don't have time to do a bowl lather. Maybe one of these days we'll try to do a fast bowl lather, and we'll see how we do. I know I've done it full tilt setup, tear down, everything in 9.5 minutes, and that was actually with Mitchell's wool fat a few years ago. You can find that video if you want to look hard enough. But I also want to say that the bowl lathering has a few weaknesses as well. It's just that I don't mind those. There's that extra time you have to spend cleaning your bowl. I don't mind that, because that is what I use to actually clean my brush. I let the water flow out of this faucet into the sink, into the bowl, and then I use that to clean instead of rubbing the bowl around in the sink, that sort of thing. So I don't mind it, but it is something to do. It is an extra task. Then there's that feel that you get when you're working your lather on your face, and it transfers from something that's too dry, and then that hydration comes in and you get that creamy feel. You face latherers, you really get to feel that whole transition in a really neat way, whereas we bowl lathers have to kind of watch it happen, and then we try to stop it at the right time, but you guys feel it every time, right, as a face lather. And so that's a nice positive as well. Sometimes it can take less time with face lathering, and so that's a nice positive for face lathering, and a negative against some bowl lathering. Bowl lathering doesn't have to be slow. So there are definitely some trade-offs, some pros and cons to each side, and that this was not a bad face lathering time, but it did help me learn a couple of things, like the luxury and the joy taken in that third pass. It just wasn't there, and so that enjoying my brush argument that a lot of face latherers feel, well, that's kind of a little rebuttal against that, even more than my usual one of me, that I do take time to enjoy my brush. All right, well, there we go. You know what I might do tomorrow is that same 120 swirls. I might do it, and then we'll switch to bowl lathering, and we'll see how much lather we generate. And we're able to see, do we end up with 4 passes of lather? And so we end up more evenly spreading out that lather among our different passes, instead of having it be so front heavy when you're face lathering. Pass number 1 heavy, that would be an interesting experiment. I know I've kind of done that kind of thing before. But who knows? Who knows what we'll try? Very good. One of the next soaps that we're going to play with is Dr. Ditmar. It's a hard soap, and it was one of the next that was voted by you guys. It's a nice performer too, from Europe. All right, guys, this is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and man, I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you so much, and I hope that there's been something in this video to help you guys out with your shaving journey. And I need to remember in this room not to wear gray shirts. I'm like a floating head. This is a virtual green screen kind of situation. All right, my friends, you take care. Have a good night.